and gentlemen, welcome back to another Agro Grow Life series where we teach or provide with information on orchid management and care. Of course, in today's presentation, we'll be focusing primarily on nutrition. Now, before we go in depth of things, I would like to ask you to like, subscribe, and share so other persons as well can tune in to this information. Now, orchids are a wide and diverse species of plants as we have established in previous videos. And as such, like other plants, it do need a lot of nutrients. Now, of the 16 nutrients that are generally taken up by plants, orchids as well demand these nutrients to facilitate growth. Of the 16 nutrients, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen are generally provided by nature. As such, the remaining 13 we will be focusing on supplying or should be supplied in your fertilizer. And these nutrients are basically utilized by your orchids in an effort to grow and to produce, in this case, produce in blooms, because orchids are grown primarily for blooms, of course. Now, what I want to highlight as well is the root structure of your orchid, which is a modified root that allows the plant to absorb or to have maximum absorption taking place. Now, our primary focus though in today's Go Live series is understanding orchid nutrition, feeding your plants, of course, product use and application, special blends and formulation, overfeeding your plants, and as a result, some of the issues that can arise, and also the growing tips. So come along with me. All right, understanding orchid nutrition, as what I was highlighting earlier on regarding 16 elements, right? That the plant or orchids in general, like any other plants, need these nutrients for proper growth and development. Now, your major nutrients, which is nitrogen, is needed for vegetative growth, while your phosphorus and potassium is needed for flowering and for reproductive activities. And all the nutrients are important, but it's just that some are taken up in larger quantities, and after the demand for those is greater than those that would have referred to as our minor or trace minerals. Now, also as a part of our secondary macronutrients are calcium, magnesium, and sulfur, and they play a very important role among the secondary nutrients and should be provided in smaller quantities. Now, additionally, micronutrients, as I alluded to earlier, also play an important role in the metabolic process of your plant development. And what you realize, if there's an absence of micronutrients, it will also affect the functionality of the macronutrients, so to speak. Now, feeding your orchids. Now, the recommended regime is weekly. What do I mean by this? I mean a weak solution should be provided to your plants on a weekly basis. So, weekly. Now, a teaspoon of fertilizer per gallon of water is normally the recommended amount of nutrients to be given to your orchid plants. So, it will be a teaspoon per gallon of your orchid fertilizer that is utilized on a weekly basis to actually feed your plants. And when I talk about nutrients or fertilizer would have been your standard NPK fertilizer, what many persons would have called your 20-20-20 or your 20-20-20, which is often used as your standard fertilizer. Now, before you actually fertilize your plant, what you need to do is to flush. Flushing is of primary importance because orchid roots can be quite sensitive and as such become easily damaged or burned by nutrients, and as such flushing to a great degree helps to minimize this. Note, feeding may change depending on the plant demands and at the stage of growth. So depending of where the plant is at in terms of growth and development, there may be degrees of certain nutrients that is demanded in greater amount over others. So if you look at during the process of blooming or the fertilizers out there and the market, that is usually sold for the purpose of stimulating bloom or giving the plant with the required nutrients for blooming to take place, you realize that they tend to have a higher amount of phosphorus. So your bloom boosting fertilizer generally have a higher amount of phosphorus. So one of those standard bloom boosting fertilizer that is on the market will consist of a 20, 30, 20, which is 20% nitrogen, 30% phosphorus to 20% potassium. So note that your phosphorus is normally higher than the other nutrients or elements within that fertilizer. Now, feeding your orchids, remember now to fertilize weekly with a weak fertilizer solution. Remember, orchids are not necessarily heavy feeders. They don't demand a lot of nutrients like a regular plant because of the modification of their root and how they have evolved as a plant species into to efficiently utilize small amount of nutrients. Now remember, it's a teaspoon of a balanced fertilizer, such as our Nutrex fertilizer, can be given once weekly. We will be looking at Nutrex and its composition in a minute. Now, water first, then follow up with a fertilizer solution. And as I highlighted earlier, the purpose for that is to prevent the root of your orchids from being damaged or burned, because fertilizers are acidic salts. Good enough? Now, understanding your fertilizer, it is of key importance that at least you have a basic understanding of fertilizers and what they are comprised of. So as I highlighted earlier on, nitrogen promotes vegetative growth. So that's where most of your growth is coming from. And the reason for this is that nitrogen is necessary for the formulation of amino acid, which are the building blocks for protein which facilitate growth. So nitrogen is important for the formulation of amino acid, and it's promote vegetative or foliar growth, so to speak. Now, phosphorus is also another macronutrient that is of high importance. It promotes blooming and as well flowering and root development in orchids. Also, potassium promotes root development and is important as a nutrient for the overall metabolic processes within the plant. So it helps to facilitate and drive a lot of these metabolic processes within the orchid plants in an effort to facilitate overall growth and production. Good. Now, what fertilizer to use and when to use them? This is often a question that many orchidists or persons that have an interest in orchids may ask. What fertilizer do you use and when do you use these fertilizer? Now, it's best to use a water-soluble fertilizer, especially for those orchids that are mounted or grown in sileless medium. And what I'm talking about when I mean sileless medium, for example, like a sphagnum moss, like this here, right? Sphagnum moss, charcoal, stone, bark, clay pellets, and so on. Those are inert material, right? So the best fertilizer for you to utilize when you're growing your plants in inert material is your water-soluble fertilizers. Remember now, your what? Water-soluble fertilizers. Now, for foliar growth, we recommend using a fertilizer with a higher nitrogen content or somewhat of a high nitrogen content, such as a 30-10-10. Remember now, the focus is on foliar. So you have a fertilizer with a bit higher nitrogen content than your phosphorus or your potassium. Because as I said to you earlier, that nitrogen promotes foliar growth, and that is your primary focus, is for foliar growth. So if the focus is on foliar growth, you can use a fertilizer that has a higher nitrogen content than, say, your phosphorus and your potassium. It is not recommended for urea to be utilized, right? Now, next, to promote blooming, we recommend using a bloom booster or fertilizer containing a high amount of phosphorus as indicated earlier. So a 10-30-20-20 ratio is good as well as a 20-30-20 ratio fertilizer is also acceptable and can be utilized to promote blooming. For seedlings, the focus is on proper root development, so it's recommended to use a 10-10-30, something with a bit more potassium to it, and that in and itself will help to promote or stimulate some amount of root growth. Now, I want to also highlight though that there are some key things to be mentioned. That in terms of plant, your plant will have to be at a stage of maturity for it to really start to bloom. An underdeveloped or young plant that is not at a maturity stage will not readily bloom, and the addition of fertilizer at that stage will not necessarily causes that plant to bloom. Also, if the plant is not exposed to the right environmental condition, it can also affect the plant overall ability to actually grow and develop properly, and also to bloom as expected. Now, I want to highlight some of the nutritional products that is available at H&L Agro, and also at your Rapid True Value stores island-wide. Let's look at our garden line fertilizer here, which is specifically formulated for orchids. We also have our Nutrex, which is really your 2020 plus your minor elements or other elements is also a part of the composition of your Nutrex. So it's not just a 2020. It's more than a 2020. It's more of a holistic blend, so to speak. Also, I would like to pull your attention to our liquid line of fertilizer nutrients, really, and they are highly soluble, highly absorbable as well. And these nutritional products is used to correct nutritional deficiencies in plants and to improve overall growth. Now, you may wonder if orchids suffer from nutritional deficiencies. Yes, they suffer from nutritional deficiencies, and oftentimes these nutritional deficiencies goes unnoticed, or they can be misdiagnosed for a fungal attack, right? Well, it's really a nutritional deficiency that is actually taking place. Now, going back to our garden line, our garden line premium orchid fertilizer, as I said earlier on, is formulated to meet the needs of your orchid plants. So this is a standardized orchid fertilizer that can be used on all species of orchid to provide that orchid with all the nutrients that it so demands at the different stages of growth. So it's more than a standard blend of nutrients. It consists of the primary macro and all the essential micronutrients. It promotes quick growth and gives you a richer, more intense color flowers or bloom. Of course, it is highly absorbable to plant leaves and root. And the beauty about your garden line or your garden feed orchid fertilizer is that it doesn't burn your plants easily. As long as you stick within the prescribed dosage rate, it doesn't burn your plant easily. Now, let's move over to our Nutrex, which I highlighted early on. Nutrex is your 2020, but it is comprised of other nutrient elements. So, for example, apart from the NPK, it also has your boron, your iron, your zinc, your cobalt, your copper, magnesium, molybdenum, and sulfur. So these are all nutrients that is important in the metabolic process to drive growth and proper development of your plants. So this is a wonderful fertilizer for you to have in your nutritional arsenal, so to speak, that you utilize on a weekly basis. Also, what I would like to turn your attention to is a product that I know for sure will work wonders. You all may be wondering. And for persons who normally research and read and just is into the whole orchid growth and so on, you may come across the use of seaweed or seaweed extract, I should say, as a biostimulant. So here we have algae plant tonic, which is a biostimulant made from sargassum seaweed. And it's 100% organic, and it provides a plethora of nutrients as well as plant hormone that stimulates plant growth. And if you realize, we have them in different graduations or sizes as well. Back to our liquid feed nutritional line here, that focuses primarily on addressing those deficiencies that may arise from time to time. So these are what you use to correct any deficiency issues and also to improve nutrition. We are going to speak about some of the deficiencies that may arise from time to time during cultivation. Good. So your algae consists of macro and micronutrients along with amino acids and important plant growth hormones such as auxins, cytokinins, and gibberellins as well. And these are all hormones that is used to drive the growth process in your plants, inclusive of orchid. Now, what will algae do? It will boost plants' overall well-being. It helps to build the plant immunity and overall growth, which is great. It also helps with boosting your flowering, right? So you'll have more blooms, more flower buds being forming, and as a result, more blooms and better looking flower as well. It will rejuvenate and restores vitality of damaged plants or plants that have been recovering from injury, such as pest infestation or fungal damage, which I have treated and as such need an extra boost, that extra push to facilitate growth and the development. So algae is one of those products that you should have as a part of your nutritional package or arsenal home that you use on a weekly basis in supplying your plants with the added nutrients, but also the hormonal constituents such as your gibberellins, the cytokinins, and your auxin in facilitating growth and development. Now let's turn our heads to our liquid feed line. Now, what I like about the liquid feed line is that they are highly absorbable, right? Means that they are readily absorbed into the tissue of the plant and they are applied foliarly. Now, your liquid feed line is consists of your K phosphate, which is a combination of potassium and phosphorus, of course, and as I highlighted that the potassium and your phosphorus is important nutrients for root growth and also for flowering to take place. So we have our magnesium, which plays an essential role in the formation of chlorophyll. Next, we have our calcium boron that tends to fortify your plant's cell wall, making them more resistant to damage. So we're going to look at them individually in a minute. So this is your calcium boron. Good. Now we also have our phosphorus, which is this is your liquid feed phosphorus as well. Good enough. Good. We also have our zinc, of course, which plays a role in tissue development, especially new growth. Good. We have our fulvic and humic acid, and we're going to talk a bit about the magic of fulvic and humic acid. Wonderful product for you to have, especially if you're growing those that are more likely terrestrial and as such are grown inside. Good enough? Good. So we're going to look at them individually. Good. Now, when you're using your liquid feed, as I said to you earlier on, is focused on addressing deficiencies. Addressing what? Deficiency disease. And when we speak of a deficiency disease, we are talking about a disease that come about as a result of the lack or the absence of particular nutrients or nutrients. But as I highlighted early on, that the plant needs 16 nutrients in order for it to grow and develop properly. But carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen are normally provided by nature, right, in the form of air and water. Outside of that, you have your macronutrients, which is your nitrogen, your phosphorus, your potassium, your calcium, your sulfur, and your magnesium. Along with amino. Then you have those that are what we call our micro, that are needed in a minute form or lesser, or the demand for these. Just as important, but it's just that these trace minerals or trace elements are taken up in smaller quantities. And these trace elements are comprised of your iron, your manganese, your boron, your molybdenum, your copper, your zinc, your chlorine, and your cobalt. And an absence of your micronutrients can affect the function of your macronutrients. Keep that in mind. So your micronutrients is important for the metal to drive certain metabolic processes in your plant. Now, when we look at a calcium deficiency, and calcium deficiency is one of those diseases that affect, and deficiency disease, I should say, that will arise from time to time if you're not supplying or supplementing your orchids with enough calcium or calcium any at all. Most persons just use a standard 20-20-20 and that's it. Over time, you will realize that your plant will be affected, especially your Cattleya type, like your Garyanthus, your Garyanthus orchid. They tend to show symptoms of calcium deficiency, especially during the rapid growth period. So during the growth period where the nutrient demand is high, that is when you tend to see the calcium deficiency taking place. And although it is one of those lesser macronutrients, it is used to build a cell walls or to fortify for your cell wall. A deficiency of calcium normally occurs in the spring, which is a period of active growth, and as such active, the demand for nutrients will increase, and nutrient uptake will increase as the plant become more active, and as such tend to want to absorb more nutrients in an effort for it to facilitate growth and development. What will happen when you have a calcium deficiency is that you have new leaves may turn black at the tips. New leaves may turn what? Black at the tips. So many of you, especially your Cattleya type or orchids, will show these symptoms as where you have a new growth taking place. The leaf within the new growth at the axil will tend to develop a black demarcation or black rot. It is similar to black rot, but it's just that it generally starts with the new growth, and this is really a deficiency of calcium taking place. So it will affect the plant in general. Good. So the affected area has an advanced yellowing band that will become black or brown in time to come. The bud growth may be inhibited, or buds may develop improperly. In certain periods, depending on the degree of the deficiency, these buds can actually fall off. And calcium deficient may also cause the death of your root tips. So when you have your orchid roots not growing and they look a bit underdeveloped, and the root tips tend to be dying back, that can be as a result of calcium deficiency. And what we have to address that, of course, is your calcium boron right here, right? And the recommendation using this for your orchids, since orchids are not like your regular plant, is half teaspoon to the gallon of water. Remember, as what we highlighted early on, is that orchids has evolved the means of utilizing minimal amount of nutrients, right? So they can survive on small dosage of nutrients. Also, you don't want too much of an acidic solution that can result in burning or damaging your plant roots. And also, if you add too much calcium, it may upset the pH balance within the pot. So you want to use minimal amount over a period of time. As I highlight here, weekly. Weekly, so it's a weak solution of nutrients that are going to feed the plant on a weekly basis. So yes, looking at our calcium boron, it will strengthen the plant cells, just fortifying your plant cell, and it promotes root tip development. So of course, ladies and gentlemen, ensure that you have your liquid feed calcium boron as a part of your nutrient regime. Next, let's look at magnesium deficiency, and this one often happens in many growers' plant, but is also misdiagnosed as a fungal or microbial infection taking place. Now, magnesium is essential in the formation of chlorophyll, and chlorophyll is used to trap sunlight in an effort for your plant to make food, and food is important for the plant to utilize to get energy to facilitate that growth, or for growth to actually take place. So what you will realize is that if you have a deficiency of magnesium, over time you will see a decrease in production, a decrease in growth. How do we identify a magnesium deficiency? Let's look at some of the symptoms. Now, magnesium deficiency can result in what we call cup-shaped leaves, a reduction in growth, and also marginal or intervenal chlorosis. And what we mean by chlorosis is that your plant leaf begins to show signs of yellowing. So you will see a faint yellowing that is developing in your orchid leaf, almost like a mosaic pattern taking place within your orchid leaf. So that is an indication of magnesium deficiency taking place. So the plants grow with magnesium deficiency can exhibit that chlorotic mottling, yes, that mottling appearance, especially if it is exposed to extreme or high temperatures. And that is the reason why it is recommended that you utilize Epsom salt, especially during periods of extensive sunlight, where like in the dry period we have intense, like the summer months, right, when you have more intense sunlight and heat within the environment. Persons normally uses your magnesium sulfate or your Epsom salt. Now, a better alternative is for you to utilize your magnesium to put back that green within the plant, and that is exactly what you want. You want the plant to farm or to produce or to make enough chlorophyll. So it's an important constituent, as I said earlier, in the formation of chlorophyll, and it's very mobile in a plant. And because magnesium is so mobile, what will happen is that all the leaves down on the plant, all the leaves, if the plant is going to have a deficiency of magnesium, it will take the magnesium from the lower leaves, right? So your lower plant leaves will start to exhibit that sort of yellowing. If the deficiency is so bad, you will actually see it in the entire leaf of the plant. So yes, viewers, an important nutrient that you should have in your arsenal of your nutritional kit, so to speak, is your magnesium. Good. Now, if from time to time you also may have a deficiency of nitrogen taking place. Now, your standard fertilizer normally has NPK, and N is for nitrogen, P is for phosphorus, and the K is for potassium. So NPK, a deficiency of nitrogen is not something that you readily see occurring in orchid plants where the grower is actually fertilizing with a standard NPK. But for plants that is not fertilized, right, and the medium may be poor, especially if the medium consists of organic matter, which would have broken down over time. And of course, organic matter will provide some amount of nutrients, but it becomes so broken down and poor, then you realize those plants that are neglected or just placed there, they will tend to start to exhibit or show signs of nitrogen deficiency. What you see happening is more of a uniform leaf yellowing. Uniform leaf yellowing. And this uniform leaf yellowing tend to start from where the plant is, from where the leaf is attached to the plant. You have a gradual yellowing taking place, right? And the plant will also appear stubby, and the leaf can also feel a bit leathery. These are symptoms of a nitrogen deficiency. What we have in our liquid feed line that can be used to address a deficiency of nitrogen that will give you a very good result is your liquid feed, looking for it, or liquid feed ammonium. Now your liquid feed ammonium, it is not here, but your liquid feed ammonium is also a very good source of nitrogen, right? It is liquid feed amino acids, and it is consist of a nitrogen based compound amino acids. And as I highlighted to you earlier, that amino acids are the central building blocks for protein, really. So this is already source of nitrogen that is used to correct deficiency of nitrogen deficiencies and promote overall growth. So we have a deficiency of nitrogen. Your liquid feed amino acid is your go-to product. Now, what you can use from time to time to supplement your potassium is your liquid feed potassium of course, and potassium. Orchids appreciate potassium. Mostly though at the end of the season, because it helps to control flower development. So when that plant has grown and is now in the process of now producing, your potassium comes in handy. Its demand for potassium will increase because it's now going into the production phase. And production phase here means the production of blooms, which you, like myself, love. Is really the orchid bloom, or the flower, so to speak. Now, potassium also helps to suppress fusarium infection. I want that to be reflected on. That potassium also helps to suppress fusarium infection. And in my previous orchid presentation, where we looked at fungal and bacterial disease, I highlighted that fusarium is one of those diseases that often affect orchids. So the use of potassium to a great degree can help to minimize or suppress onset of fusarium. Now let's look at phosphorus. Now phosphorus is one of those essential nutrients that the plant generally takes up in larger quantity. It's a macro nutrient, and as such its demand tends to be great. Now the role of phosphorus is that it improves root growth and also increase blooming. So phosphorus is one of those nutrients, our nutrient supplement. In this case, our liquid feed phosphorus can be utilized within your solution in an effort to improve blooming and also root growth. Now fulvic and humic acid is suitable for terrestrial and semi-terrestrial orchids. And what do I mean by terrestrial and semi-terrestrial orchids? These are orchids that are generally grown in soil. So for example, like your Bletia, your Spatoglatis, your Phaeus. These orchids are generally grown in soil. What your fulvic and humic acid done is to improve the nutrients availability, I should say, within the medium, and as such facilitate uptake. Fulvic and humic acid is part of the part of humus, because it's the organic acid that is generally formed after the breakdown of organic material. So soil that is generally high in humus tend to have high amounts of humic and fulvic acid, and as such is rich in nutrients. Now let's look at another key nutrient that you can utilize within your nutrition program, and that is zinc. Now zinc plays a very critical role as it relates to the development of keys and for new growth taking place. Zinc concentration strongly stimulates shoot and root growth and development overall. Zinc is essential for regulating growth. So it plays a regulative role, so to speak, in your plant's the development. It also improves the function of chlorophyll that is produced within the plant. And remember, we alluded to the function of chlorophyll within the plants. Zinc is essential for plant hormone balance, especially auxin activity. So the activity of auxin in the process of growth and the development. Your zinc balances how the auxin function, which is a plant hormone, and it's also important for electron transfer within your plant. So go ahead and add to your nutrient supplement in ensuring that you get enough zinc. Now, grain tips. Now, as I said to you earlier on, it's best for you to fertilize dilute solution. Here we give you a teaspoon per gallon of water on a weekly basis. Never apply more fertilizer than what is recommended. Also, it's important for you to drench, which we refer to as flushing, and this is done in an effort to remove excess fertilizer buildup within the pot. If there's too much fertilizer being built up in the pot, this can result in damaging the root system of your plant and making your plant more prone to the entry of fungal microbes, especially like Fusarium. So remember to flush in an effort to not create an acidic pH within the medium. Also, very green leaves with the plant is too succulent and floppy as well can be a sign of over fertilizing. So these are things you need to pay attention to. And also, it's best for you to fertilize when the plant is in active growth. If the plant is in active growth, it means that the plant will demand more nutrients, and as such, it will tend to absorb more nutrient depending on its demand and utilizing that nutrient more as well. If the orchids are the disease are in a poor condition, important, you need to stop fertilizing. Damaged, dead and decayed root is not functional. They will not absorb nutrients as well. So if a plant is infected or if a plant is damaged, the root system is damaged, it's best for you to treat the disease, and then at the onset of new roots, then you can now expose your plant to nutrients for the purpose of uptake, right? But if the plant has no roots or the plant has damaged roots and roots are not functional, it is not recommended for you to fertilize that plant. Good? Now, also understand that overfeeding of fertilizers does more harm than to your plant than underfeeding the orchid. Remember, over fertilizing can do more harm or damage to your plant than under fertilizing. Remember that. If overfeeding does not kill the plant, it will definitely make them weak with a negative impact on its growth and flowering overall. The plants may produce many shoots, or such you may have strong vegetative growth and somewhat fragile growth, meaning the growth tend to be easily broken, right? Because the focus is on vegetative growth, where you have too much nitrogen being used. Also, it can affect the production of flowers or bloom. So remember now, do not over fertilize. Now the roots may tend to also burn and to also die as a result of over fertilizing or giving your plants too much fertilizer. Many orchids have a symbiotic relationship with a microbe called a mycorrhiza. Now mycorrhiza allows for the availability of nutrients to facilitate orchid growth, especially in the germination of orchid seeds. But also certain orchid species, they tend to have a lifelong relationship with mycorrhiza. Why am I saying this? Because if you create too much of an acidic environment, it will change the pH and also affect the production or the existence of these mycorrhiza within the medium, and this to a great degree can affect the availability of nutrients. So it is advisable not to overdose or to over fertilize. Next, So I do hope that you learn a lot from today's presentation. Now, what we're going to look at now is our giveaway question, where one lucky client or customer will be given the opportunity to have a crop care kit from H&L Agro. And the crop care kit consists of a garden feed or premium blend garden feed orchid fertilizer that is formulated especially for addressing many of the nutrient needs of your orchids, as well as magnesium sulfate, aka Epsom salt, and your Nutrex fertilizer as well, that is consistent of both macro and micro nutrients. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the ending of our presentation, and I'm very much hoping that you were able to absorb a lot of information, and that many of the issues or concerns that you may have surrounding nutrients are providing your plant with the right and appropriate nutrients were addressed in today's H&L Agro Go Live series. So thank you for being with us, and feel free to reach out to us at H&L Agro anytime. And all the products that are available here are found at our 5 locations island-wide, while inclusive of our rapid true value stores as well. Thank you.